The Darkest Secret by Shane Corfield. Chapter 1. Grace had always been fascinated by mysteries. She loved nothing more than reading detective novels and watching true crime documentaries. So when her best friend, Lisa, asked her to help solve a mystery, she couldn't resist. Lisa's husband, Jack, had been acting strange lately. He was always on his phone, and he seemed to be hiding something. Lisa had tried talking to him, but he brushed her off, telling her that she was being paranoid. But Lisa knew something was wrong, and she wanted Grace to help her find out what it was. Grace agreed to help, and she started to investigate. She followed Jack, but he always seemed to know when she was following him. She checked his phone, but there was nothing incriminating on it. She even tried to talk to his friends, but they all seemed to be in on whatever Jack was hiding. As the weeks went by, Grace started to feel like she was going crazy. She was so focused on finding out Jack's secret that she started neglecting her own life. She stopped seeing her friends, stopped going to work, and stopped taking care of herself. But then, one day, she found something. Jack had left his phone at home, and Grace couldn't resist the temptation to go through it again. She was scrolling through his messages when she found one that made her blood run cold. It was a message from someone named X. The message read, "I know what you did. If you don't want your wife to find out, you'll do exactly what I say." Grace knew she had to tell Lisa, but she didn't know how. She couldn't bear to see her friend's heart break, but she also couldn't keep this secret to herself. Chapter 2. Lisa was devastated when Grace told her what she had found. She confronted Jack, and he finally broke down and told her the truth. He had been involved in a hit-and-run accident a few months ago. He had been driving drunk and had hit a pedestrian. He had panicked and had driven away, leaving the person to die on the side of the road. Jack had been living with the guilt ever since, and he had been in contact with X, a mysterious person who had witnessed the accident. X had been blackmailing Jack, demanding money and favors in exchange for keeping quiet about the accident. Lisa was heartbroken, but she still loved Jack. She promised to help him, but they both knew they couldn't do it alone. That's when they turned to Grace. Grace knew she had to do something. She couldn't let her friend's husband live in fear of X forever. She started to investigate again, this time with Lisa and Jack's help. They followed every lead they could find, and eventually, they found X. X turned out to be a woman named Rachel. She was the wife of the man who had been killed in the hit-and-run accident. Rachel had been devastated by her husband's death and had been determined to get justice for him. But when Grace and Lisa confronted her, she broke down and confessed that she had gone too far. She had never intended to hurt Jack and Lisa, but she didn't know how to stop. She had been consumed by her grief and her desire for revenge. Jack and Lisa were relieved that the truth was finally out, but they knew they still had to face the consequences of Jack's actions. Jack turned himself into the police and was sentenced to prison for his crime. Lisa was left alone, but she found solace in Grace's company. They had grown closer through their investigation, and they both realized that they didn't want to lose each other. They started to spend more time together, and their friendship deepened into something more. But just when they thought they had put the past behind them, something strange started to happen. Grace started to receive anonymous messages, just like the ones Jack had received from X. The messages were cryptic, but they were enough to make Grace paranoid. She tried to ignore them, but they kept coming. She started to think that someone was watching her, following her every move. She didn't know who to trust, and she didn't know what to do. Then, one day, Grace received a message that made her blood run cold. It was from X, the mysterious person who had been blackmailing Jack. The message read, "I know what you did. If you don't want your girlfriend to find out, you'll do exactly what I say." Grace knew she had to tell Lisa, but she was afraid of what might happen. She didn't want to lose the woman she loved, but she also couldn't keep this secret to herself. She decided to confront X herself, hoping to put an end to this once and for all. Chapter 4. Grace arranged to meet X at a remote location, hoping to catch her off guard. But when she arrived, she realized that X was one step ahead of her. X had brought a gun, and she was determined to make Grace pay for what Jack had done. Grace tried to reason with X, but X was beyond reason. She was consumed by her grief and her desire for revenge, just like she had been with Jack. Grace knew she had to act fast if she wanted to survive. She lunged at X, hoping to disarm her, but X was too quick. She fired the gun, and the sound echoed through the empty warehouse. Grace felt a sharp pain in her chest, and she fell to the ground. As she lay there, bleeding, Grace thought about all the things she had left unsaid. She thought about Lisa, and how much she loved her. She thought about her family, and how much she would miss them. Chapter 5. Grace survived her injuries, and she and Lisa moved away from the city, hoping to start a new life together. They were both scarred by what had happened, but they were determined to make the most of their second chance. X was sentenced to prison for her role in the blackmail and the attempted murder of Grace. But even in prison, Grace kept her promise to help her. She wrote to X regularly, offering words of encouragement and advice. And eventually, X started to listen. She started to read self-help books and attend therapy sessions. She started to find a way to move on from her grief and anger, and she began to heal. Years passed, and Grace and Lisa had built a happy life together. They had started a family and were content with the simple joys of life. They still thought about the past from time to time, but it no longer haunted them. One day, Grace received a letter from X. It was a simple letter, but it contained a powerful message. X had finally found the strength to forgive Jack and to let go of her anger. She thanked Grace for helping her find a way to move on, and she expressed her gratitude for everything Grace had done for her. Grace read the letter with tears in her eyes. She realized that even the darkest of secrets could be healed with time and forgiveness. She felt a sense of closure that she had never felt before. As she put the letter away, Grace realized that she had come full circle. She had started out as a victim, but she had become a survivor. She had turned her pain into strength, and she had helped others do the same. Grace knew that life would never be easy, but she also knew that she was strong enough to face whatever came her way. And with Lisa by her side, she knew that she could overcome anything.
Thank you for listening. Please check out my other audiobooks and consider dropping a like on the video. It helps me out a lot.